So I just wanted to tackle this kind of question of diversity. We're both of Indian origin, I guess, right? So from the subcontinent, you are obviously female. I'm not, but equally, I think both of us have come from relatively middle class backgrounds. I think the schools that we went to would be considered pretty good schools in the grand scheme of things, and no doubt, you've been through IB, investment banking track. I've come out of various different sort of bits and bobs, with including Deutsche Bank and PricewaterhouseCoopers and so on. But there were a couple of questions. So as a general point, it was said by someone at one of Europe's top VCs that there are disproportionately high number of South Asian women in the VC angel world, i.e. or e.g. Reshma from Seed Camp and Angela Acharya, who come to mind. And this is from Raj, and she said, as a South Asian woman herself, it was obviously music to her ears. Is that something that you've observed or would agree with? So that's a great question. Like, there are a lot of South Indians and South Indian women within angel and VC world, and whether you've come across many of them. And then we have a second question, whether you think there are still barriers for, and this is from Adrian, whether there are still barriers for female founders and founders from a non-middle class kind of white Anglo-Saxon, I guess in the UK, background in general to getting access to funds. And obviously that's probably an anecdotal kind of feeling maybe on your side. And what can founders from these backgrounds do to break through those barriers? And does that old boys network still have too much of an influence? How aware do you think they are of factors such as unconscious bias and cultural bias, which are all really, like, these are big topic questions at the tail end of this conversation. And I think worth saying, it's probably not just in VC world, but probably across, if I think about employment and other areas, and non-executive directors and boards, etc. All of these kind of are touch points throughout all of that. So it'd be really interesting to get a download from you on your take on what's happening in terms of diversity in investing.
So I guess let's start with the stats. So the stats are that women get 1% of VC funding in 2020, 2019, etc. Over 90% goes to all male founding teams still as of today. And this is with all of the diversity and all of the change that's going on. There's a report, I don't know if any of you saw it, but it came out this week and it said exactly what we're talking about here. So over 75% of founders come from advantaged socioeconomic backgrounds. So barely any come from where families are living on welfare entitlements or, disadvantaged backgrounds. And so there's so many layers to this diversity story that it, like you said, in the broader spectrum of outside of investment, it needs to be tackled, and steps are taking place. And then if you look at, for example, Black female founders, it's even lower than 1%. So you've got even less of a chance. And I saw a report last month that, really got to me because it had Rihanna's raise in there for Fenty. And it said, oh, look, Black female founders are doing really well. And it's like, how that just completely is skewed. And don't get me wrong, I just saw another 100 million valuation of, some female founders, Black female founders. So there is stuff happening, but you can't put Rihanna into the same bucket and say, hey, it's changing. So I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done, like both in this and outside. And I think, so there's gender, there's, like socioeconomic, all of the things that we're talking about. There are biases because people buy from people that look like them. If you go back to when I was in investment banking and I was in sales, I was put on the UK desk, or I was put on the Middle East desk where I was working with a lot of Indian clients. In the same way, we had a French desk selling to French clients, an Italian desk selling to Italian clients. So it was language, but it was also you buy from who you look like. And that is the case everywhere. And that's why I genuinely believe that male-founded teams do, because if you look a layer above, all of the investors are male. And if you look at, VC, and then that you have to keep looking above and keep uncovering to where that begins or where that can start to be solved. And so for me, it's about, even today, I think there's about 10% of people in VC are women, but that's way higher than it was, 5 years ago or 3 years ago. So let's just keep celebrating the small steps that we are having, and let's just make sure that number massively increases. I think that happens at LP level, that has to happen at GP level, that has to happen at angel level, and at founder level. And I think it's not just about women supporting women. So I take, talking to your first point, I think it's amazing. Yes, Reshma Anjula, I followed her story. She's backed some incredible female founders, like really amazing women, South Asian and non-South Asian, just women doing amazing things. I'm part of a syndicate called Alma Angels in the UK, which has just been amazing, backing female founders. So for me, I know when a female founder approaches me and it's not for me, I at least have somewhere to send them, where I know there's hundreds of investors in this group that are looking to back female founders, and different, like we said, different people have different interests. So, other like female founders have ended up being funded from stuff that, just from having, access to these syndicates. So I think there's a lot of great progress going on. I think there also needs to be like allyship from men, and that again exists in the bigger diversity conversation, which is really important, as well as in VC funding. So I was asked to join a panel in a few weeks on the future of sustainability and tech in the tech space, and there was a male VC partner who was invited to be on the panel, and he asked how many women and how many men are on the panel. He goes, no, first of all, he said, I would love to, but I just need to check what is the breakdown of the gender diversity on the panel, because if there's more men than women, I won't do it. Really, and it was such a small thing, but that's male allyship. So that's exactly it. And there was an equal panel, and there's actually more women overall in the event, which is great. But it was the fact that he was willing to ask that question and say that, and make sure that diversity exists. And so it's all good talking about diversity, but it's small, baby. It doesn't have to be big moves. It doesn't have to be, publishing to your whole LinkedIn network that you support diversity, or making big strides in the space. But these small little baby steps, these micro steps where women get sidelined or women get pushed aside, or, different backgrounds, socioeconomic backgrounds. It's these small steps that when a guy does that, who's a male VC partner, for me, it's those small steps that all add up to like bigger steps overall. And that's how we move the whole agenda forward. So, I don't know if any of you saw this week, but there was it was a femcare. So I don't know how much people know about the femcare industry. It's something I'm exploring. I don't know very much, other than I am a woman and a potential consumer of all these amazing startups that are cropping up. It's $1 billion investment opportunity, and it's been, really not well funded in the past, and that's all changing, and it's really nice to see that progress. But there was 2 male founders, I think in Germany, who went on the equivalent of Dragon's Den with the idea for a tampon removal glove, and they got backed by a male investor.
Unbelievable.
And the problem that they were solving for didn't really exist. It later transpired. They then created even more negative impact, because they're creating a glove, first of all, that was pink as well, but they created a glove that was more additional rubbish in the whole femcare experience for a woman. So additional negative impact on climate. And then on top of that, were there solving the problem for women and bringing this glove to market. And look, everyone's allowed their ideas, and I don't, mean to disrespect, because I think, out of every experience, something great can come out of, every negative experience. But they were solving for a problem that didn't exist. They were not necessarily the right people to solve for it anyway. There's a lot of opportunity in this space to improve women's lives. So you're talking about improving half of the world's population's lives. And so let's find the right women to go and do that. And let's fund those women to go and do that, as opposed to funding a product that we don't have a need for.
2 blokes. So it's the sort of product equivalent of mansplaining, right? It's sort of, yeah. I mean, I completely get that. I think, it's obviously, it's great that you're so passionate about this, and rightly so. And I think I would agree, we need to layer in at every layer of, of enterprise and of startup world and of investment world, more and more access and opportunity for the underserved, whether they be female or from diverse backgrounds or something else. I mean, in the UK, I think a lot about the fact that everything is sort of very London centric, and therefore, I'm trying to go out my way to support founders in let's say Scotland or in the regions, and I've just had, like last week alone, I had a couple of conversations with some people doing some incredible things, like an ex footballer turned coach who's trying to tackle obesity through a fitness app. Because if you think about the fitness apps that exist at the moment, they're all about sort of generally already fit people, right? So how do you do that? And then someone else who's doing recycling. I think on the kind of how do we get more women founders backed, I think it comes back 100% to your point, which is you buy what you know, and that means you need female investors. And I think in terms of everything that you've told us and taught us today, obviously we hope that you are one of many female investors and the next generation of investors and angels, and hopefully VCs and LPs down the track to come out there, because clearly you're passionate about what you do. Clearly you really want to be able to back the best, but equally those that haven't been able to be served by others. And clearly you care about the outcomes for the founders that you do back, and I think that's amazing.